Okay, ladies and gentlemen, very cordial welcome. New topic, but slightly related to the previous topic. I have heard that we have internal and external communication, and internal communication in our case is your website. It's a continuously developing topic, and in just 30 minutes I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the things you can do on your own website. I assume that most of you have a website, or maybe you also have service providers who work on your websites and who make optimization of the website possible. The interesting thing is you are never finished. That's good on the one hand, but on the other hand, it can be a lot of work. The entire search engine optimization has a little problem. I always compare it to a car. When you drive a car, at some point a red light starts to blink. It means you're almost out of gas. And then there's a really red light, which means now you're in trouble because your car will stop running. On websites, you don't have these red blinking lights. New customers don't show up and old customers stop visiting your website. And if you don't look at your website, you don't notice it because you always have some bookings via your website, but the red light isn't blinking because it doesn't exist. Now, in the 30 minutes that we have available, I will give you a brief overview of the things that you can do and check yourself. I want to give you some questions that you can ask yourselves or your service providers, and you'll see that it's not witchcraft, it's not rocket science. We're not going to go into secret Google tricks that exist, but most of the time these tricks don't apply to your website. It's only about finding out how the new requirements that Google has, and they exist. There are algorithm updates, and they don't just happen once a year. They happen almost on a monthly basis. And then things change, but on your website, there's no real red blinking light should it be affected. So today I want to help you a little bit so that together we can find some things that can be improved by yourself or by your service providers. There will be a couple of slides that contain a lot of information, but that's a slide that's not really intended to be discussed here. It's something that you can look up again at home. I'm going to explain the things that are important to you. The rest you can look at it when you take a picture of the slide. Okay, let's begin with the presentation. My name is Andreas Kaufmann from Baden-Württemberg. I have been active in this field for quite some time. 2011, I started my own search engine optimization agency in 2011, but back then everything was a lot easier. Everything was related to keywords. If you had good keywords that you pushed, everything worked nice and smoothly. Now there are certain things that are called semantic search. What does that mean? It means that keywords are no longer important, at least not as important as they were in the past. Everything is evaluated. How is Google doing it? Based on user behavior. And the user behavior of your website is part and parcel of the search engine ranking. And I'm going to give you some behavioral ideas that you can easily implement at home so that you can see what are the things that I can do in order to prevent the red light from blinking. As compared to the other presenters here, I brought some things that you can actually implement yourself. It's always nice to see things in theory, but it's also nice to get a little bit of advice regarding how you can do the things yourselves. So 30 minutes isn't a lot of time, but I am going to try to, without rushing through it, give you some advice. Okay, now imagine somebody's knocking on my door and says, Mr. Kaufmann, website optimization is a good thing, but we don't need it because we're in a very good position. We are ranked #1 regarding our keywords, so we know it's an important thing to have, but how should we implement it? We already have everything. Now, let's look at this. This is a real case, and out of 3 visitors, 2 or 3 always have this problem here. Now, these are the keywords, okay? You can see ranked top everywhere. This is a screenshot from Google Analytics. Most of you might be familiar with this. It's an analysis system that is helpful for you. It comes from Google. There are some data protection issues here that you can circumvent, but if you look at the figures from your website, don't always take them at face value. They are rather accurate, but those are not the real figures. Google aggregates figures, so use it as an impulse. If your figure is high, it's good. If it's 5, it doesn't necessarily have to be 5, but it tells you that it's not enough. And this is something that you can look up by yourself as well, namely, where do your visitors come from? The disadvantage of analytics is there's this stupid thing about analytics. Analytics only shows you the people that found you. The people that searched for you but didn't find you are not shown in analytics. So let's try to find out how we can also find the people who don't find your hotel name or your destination name and didn't enter that name, because these are the people that you will get anyway, because they wanted to find you, whether you're a famous hotel, 5-star hotel not far away from here. Almost everybody visiting Google entered the name of the hotel directly because it's a well-known 5-star hotel, but other things couldn't be found. And that's the problem that many people have. Now, maybe you're also, you have to be found, but these are your competitors here. These are Check24, other famous portals that make your life as a service provider more difficult. They have huge budgets, and we've slightly broken this down here. And you can see how much money they're spending on being top ranked at Google. Paid advertising. They have full-time employees who write texts and do this. Those are the people and the companies that you're competing with. Sometimes it's not that difficult, but it is overwhelming. You enter your main keyword, like holiday apartments in the Harz Mountains, and then you always see the big players listed first. How can you compete with this? Today, at the end of this little presentation, you will see that you're actually in a very good position, because sometimes, not all the time, actually rarely, but sometimes Google is on your side. Now, let's see. Now, how can I tell my management that we need to become active? Well, the rules of the game have changed. What used to be successful in the past, I talked about 2011, keyword optimized text. You might remember the myth that you have a text and 3% of the text need to contain keywords and then everything will just run smoothly. That was back then. It no longer works. There are different algorithm updates that now screw up this entire recipe, and it's changing all the time. Now, another problem, if I assume some of you have experience with SEMs. If you have AdWords, you always get AdWords. You always get visitors through AdWords, but it's costs per click. So depending on how expensive the AdWords are, every click will cost you a lot of money. And there are people who spend 10,000 euros per month on AdWords without AdWords really being profitable. Okay, you do generate some bookings, but not enough. Regular search engine optimization doesn't have anything to do with this. These are results that you always get. And ROI is always important. How expensive is search engine optimization? It's an investment. You have to do the math. How much, what's the benefit for me if I bring people to my website that I don't have to buy? A holiday apartment in the Harz region is about 80 euros per night. So if you get 2% more people in, how much does that mean if you have 100 holiday apartments? It's a lot, I can tell you that. I also said there are some new things that aren't actually new. Everything that we are seeing here used to be around in the past as well, but the intensity has changed. This is a beautiful buzzword here, relevance. As soon as you are active in the field of search engine optimization, Google rankings, etc., you always hear this new buzzword. Your content has to be relevant for Google. And this does make sense, because what used to be keywords in the past is now relevance, the new magical word. Now, in order to talk about relevance, you have to First, lean back and think about who has influence on my website. It's my online marketing team. It's management. It's sales and distribution. And it's the stakeholders and service providers that you're partnering with, because they want to have people accessing your website and do some bookings. Now, this can be transferred from the tourism industry to any other industry as well. Influence on a website is easy. Make sure that people visit your website and book something or gather information. Okay, on the other hand, Google isn't interested in this at all. They don't care what you're doing on your website. They think about what is the search query that your website could provide the right answer to. And this is where the problem arises. Now, the user signals and the user expectations are also coming into play. You probably cannot read this because it's blue on blue. It says massive influence on search results. And this is the thing that I'm talking about. Users' behavior also influences the search engine findings. Now, if you rank for a certain keyword, people access your website, and for whatever reason, they immediately leave the website again because they haven't immediately found what they were looking for. Or they expected to find something else. That doesn't have anything to do. That happens hundreds of times a day. But if it happens over a longer period of time for certain keyword topics, then Google can interpret this as a signal that for this topic or for this keyword, your website isn't relevant, and then you are pushed down in the ranking. This is not a red light blinking, it's just happening. You will still have bookings, but you cannot notice this. And each search finding can be different depending on the device that you're accessing it to. Your search engines will differ from the search engines, from the search engine findings that your wife will get from the same or from a different computer. So the user is taken into consideration as well. That's what you need to remember. Now, in the past, 2011 keyword optimization, end of story. Now, topic relevance, holistic approach. Holistic means comprehensive. So Google is probably doing it like this as well. They look at what can be found on the website and how can the things that are that can be found on the website be brought into a certain context. And you can help Google here, and I will show you how this works. This is more or less the summary of what I want to tell you. Now, user signals used to be important in the past as well, but they're becoming increasingly important now. Now, let me tell you about the updates that I mentioned. Some of you might have heard this already. Google always changes the website. They're called updates. They are core updates, and those are the updates where a lot of things are happening. They don't happen that frequently. That was Panda and Penguin. They're already outdated, and not too many things are happening with them as either. But what's happening now is Google is adjusting. They don't do the big updates anymore. They're adjusting. They're fine-tuning. And sometimes when you're affected by this, you immediately notice this. Here, for example, this is a list of the old updates: the Phantom update, the Panda update, the Fred update. Fred, by the way, is a name that was given by strangers because Google doesn't always communicate everything they're doing. But if you want to Google, you can look at what happened during the Fred update. These are just assumptions, but basically everything everything is based on the same idea. Google tries to find out what your website is about, what users want to find when they enter your name. Here with the Phantom update, for example, that was similar to RankBrain. If somebody asks Google or Siri something, for example, when you speak differently than when you enter something. So Google tries to find out what do the people actually mean when they enter a certain search word and whether your website is relevant for this search term. Okay, how can this be used now? Well, in a very simple way. It's actually not simple, but it sounds better when I say it's simple. So you have to explain to Google what your website is all about. Now, 90% of you will say, well, that's what we're doing anyway. Our website is absolutely optimized and we offer added value and we have great texts, but in reality, most of the time, this is just wishful thinking. these are the things that, without any problems, without a lot of knowledge, you can influence yourself. Linking your website, and by that I also mean internal links. They're extremely interesting. They're an extremely interesting way of making Google aware of certain contents. If you have a lot of great things on your website, but you don't have internal links, a lot of websites focus very much on the content, but nobody really focuses on making people aware of this, and nobody finds it on your website. So user signals, what do people do on your website? They are becoming more and more important. They're already important, but they're becoming extremely important. And then first and foremost, content, the content on your website. I mean, you always think about what do you want to put on your website, and you want to be high ranked, but wishes and reality sometimes are two different things. Now, this is one of the most interesting slides of this presentation. This presentation actually is less of a speech, but more of a little workshop. And this is the workshop on when can a website be called successful. This is what you find in textbooks as well: mobile rankings, accessibility, online visibility, mobile rankings. If, for example, you use a cell phone and start a search query, the results might be different from those of a desktop, even though you're at the same location. Now, user intention and user actions, those are the things that are becoming increasingly important. That's why I'm here today. You yourself have to be able to see how long has a person spent on my website, time on site, time on page, and then also the bounce rate. And I'm not only talking about the bounce rate on your website. Sometimes people ask me, is a bounce rate of 60-70% bad? No, it depends. But if you have a booking site and you notice that instead of booking something on the website, people bounce, then something is going wrong. And then you can do some digging to find out what the reason for this is. The booking engine that was integrated in, for example, asked strange things. For example, the IATA code. Now, Uncle Joe, as the end consumer, how should he know what the IATA code is? He doesn't. So click rate, you can get this from analytics. Everybody might have heard of the click-through rate. Now, translated into normal speak, this means in the search results, one of your websites can be found, and then the question, how many people out of 1,000 people actually clicked on it? That's a great value. You can see how attractive your search results are for the people who use Google, and you can actually find this number out by knowing where it is hidden and how it is to be interpreted. Now, I could actually write a book on this, extremely interesting. Unfortunately, I can't. Okay, relevance of topics and appropriate, another buzzword. When everybody heard that Google pays attention to content, people started buying content, 1,000 words or 2,000 words, and they found out nothing changed. Just sitting down and writing something in order to get content no longer works. This is due to the fact that Google is now trying to also look at how a real person perceives a website. We heard about the Fred update. It doesn't matter where the name comes from, but it is believed that Google no longer prefers pages that have a lot of advertising on them when you scroll down, like Spiegel Online, Focus Online. You have an article and then you need to scroll down to finish reading the article because in the middle you have these boxes with advertising for something else. And allegedly, this is no longer that important. So the behavior of the people looking for something is taken into consideration. And in your website, this needs to translate into nice pictures, nice content, nice text, having a paragraph every once in a while. Something that's always repeated but never actually implemented in practice. Now, this is the workflow, for example. If you found your topic, if you found your niche, it's very important to follow this. You can do this for everything, but that doesn't make sense. Look for a couple of things that are relevant for your business. For example, if you have holiday apartments or Segway rentals, etc. If you are in your niche, stick to your niche. If you cover a lot of different things, try to find out what's actually relevant for your business, because the data that you get from certain tools or service providers will very quickly move into the 100s or 1,000 areas, and then everything is becoming more and more difficult. You have to try to be attractive for people, keep them on your website for a longer period of time, and be relevant for certain keywords. That's a realistic goal, much more so than more turnover, more sales. You can also organize a little bit of help here. For example, WDF, IDF, that's also one of the buzzwords, the WDF, IDF tools. Feel free to Google it. What do other websites have? What are the other topics that these websites have when you find them, when you enter a certain keyword? It's quite interesting to look at what it is within your niche that you haven't covered yet. Okay, this is something that's always done. Booking Hotel Berlin. People want to be found for those keywords, and that's really difficult to. If you have a keyword Hotel Berlin, there might be a couple of hotels that know that they cannot stand out at all when it comes to that. Now, a good service provider, if you go somewhere and you say, I want to do SEO, I want to push our website up in the rank, and the person asks you for what keywords, and you say hotel in Berlin. Now, he's going to do it. He's going to take your website and optimize it with the focus on these keywords, but it's not the right question. The right question would have been, does it make sense to optimize according to these keywords? A good service provider is going to say no, because there is a hotel called Hotel Berlin, and there are a lot of other hotels that are on the market and have already put a lot of funds into that. So look for something else. Look for a niche that is good for you. With Hotel Berlin, for example, it was a design hotel, and in Berlin, as far as I know, there are only 6 or 7 design hotels, and only 3 do search engine optimization. Bingo. So optimize as a design hotel and not under the keywords Hotel Berlin, because this is useless. Now, in order to push this, our main topic of today is relevance. So that means we don't go into the competition on the basis of individual keywords, but we optimize things. We combine keywords and hope people and hope that Google will understand this. Now, for the tourism customer journey, I've picked out a couple of inspirations here, depending on where the customer wants to set their individual priorities for each of these issues. I want to know, I want to go, I want to do, I want to buy. You have a different search query, and for each of those, apart from the last one, I want to buy, those are the money keywords. Those are the money keywords. Let's book the hotel. Now, in the first 3 blocks, those are your niches. Those are the possibilities for you as a small agency, small service provider, small destination. This is where you can stand out against the big ones, because Check24 hardly ever focuses on these relevant keyword combinations, and I also promised you that we'll look at some practical things. Now, these are some small examples that are very easy to understand. These are, I mean, just for you to understand, what does I want, what is an I want to know moment, what is an I want to do moment? Well, basically, with I want to know, somebody just thinks about them wanting to go on vacation, and the further you move to the right, the more concrete it gets. Now, I want to go to the Black Forest. What is in the Black Forest? The city of Freiburg. What do I want to do in Freiburg? Or do I go on vacation with kids? Do I want to go on a family vacation? Do I want to go on an active bike riding vacation? And on each of these levels, you can pick out your customers. You can reach out to your customers, and this is always interesting. I mean, websites, this is your website, but for the other big niches, you can also use other things here. For example, landing pages, blog things. If you have a topic that you're interested in, and for example, bike riding in Austria, you can also do this even if you don't sell this as your main service, but you can become relevant for this topic, and it's not that difficult. But in real life, most of the time, these are the things that are taken over in reality. The website, a little bit of SEO, social media, and the regular paid searches, i.e. AdWords. That's what reality delivers most of the time. And what I've covered Here are the things that you can actually do as well with only a little bit of an effort, and I can show them again. So these are a lot of possibilities if you have agreed on what your objective is. Each of the projects that you start needs a starting question, namely, what do you want to achieve? And if your goal is A, B, or C, then these are tools and means that make it very easy for you to reach those. Now, how can you do that in practice? How can all of this be done? Now, family vacation, family with children, with dogs, and holiday apartments. What are the topics that you can bundle, and what are the topics that should be treated as individual topics? We've just learned the cloud. Let's move away from the keywords. You can think about what you can put together into one topic and what will generate different results, what has different intentions. Now, family vacation and family and holiday apartments is somehow related, but you will get different results depending on which of the search words you use. And this is how it looks in practice. I hope you can read this. Now, this is how individual topics should be bundled on your website without leading to cannibalism. Now, the landing page is family vacations in the Harz Mountains, but that's what we want to become relevant for. But our main issue is holiday apartments with children and dogs. This is something that people look for a lot, because sometimes you can have a problem when you're traveling with a dog, and if you're seen as relevant when it comes to that, you have almost covered half of your bases. And then down here we have the holistic content, the value added relevance is important here. Now, I'd like to go into so much more details, but we don't have enough time for that. I see the timer clicking down the seconds, so if you want to book this tutorial, I will be able to explain this in so much more detail. And also, as a little bit of advice to you, if you do all of this and implement it, the question always is, how do I know that it actually worked? Now, I'd like to recommend a little add-on to you, because it helps you to visualize the results on your website. The problem is, if you look at something on Google Analytics, you only have figures and you don't know what they actually refer to. In the past, this add-on was a standard in Google Analytics, no longer. But if you use Google Chrome as a browser, just a little piece of advice, use the Page Analytics add-on by Google. Just do it. The nice thing is, if you if you do this well, you will see your website, and on your website, this add-on will show you the click rates. What is it the people did on your website? And you will see a lot better where your actual problems lie. I deliberately picked another industry here. I want to show a tourism site to you, but I'm not allowed legally, so that's why I picked another industry here. So using this tool, you can do this for every page, not only the landing page. You will see what the content was that was visible for the users. If it says 0%, then something is wrong. This is a main navigation page here, and only 0.3% of the users clicked on it. So that's a problem, because that's the main navigation site, and the main navigation site is intended to distribute people on your website. So this doesn't work. Use this add-on, and then you'll see how often did people click on the picture, how often did they click on read more. It's very visual, and it shows you where your potential is hidden, where your hidden potential can also be found. Okay, or here, for example, this is about tiles, and here it says bathroom tiles. 6% clicked on that. Okay, now what you cannot see is if you look at the word bathroom tiles instead of just tiles, it's easier because more people click on bathroom tiles than click on tiles. So with this add-on, you can very nicely see what is happening and what happened and where you can become active. Now, good niches. What are good niches? Now, there are two possibilities. Either you are greatly relevant in certain keywords, but if nobody's interested in those keywords, then it's not that good either. So if you found a niche, a little bit of search volume needs to be there, so people need to be interested in your niche. Otherwise, it doesn't really help you to be relevant for certain keywords if these are things that don't really generate customers for you. Alternative to niches is fulfilling user intentions. So if the keyword or the topic is relevant for your service and if it also generates a certain search volume, then it's enough to fulfill the user intention. That's good, even though you might only be active in a small niche. So, oops, this is not that nice to look at. Too bad. A couple of things I'm missing here. This is a tool that you can also find. It's called answersofpublic.com. And in the original version, you can very nicely see this sun. You see vacation in Berlin as the main topic in the center, then family with families, and you see different variations of what could be interesting regarding this topic. For example, holidays in Berlin on a farm, or holidays in Berlin with children and by airplane. So what are the topics that people were asking about when they were searching holidays in Berlin? I think I have to speed up, so I'm going to just jump the next couple of slides and use the time that I still have to answer one or two questions. So let's jump this, let's jump this, let's jump that. And are there questions? Are there general questions regarding the things I presented? Okay.
Da kommen wir leider nicht mehr dazu.
Unfortunately, we don't have the time to go more into detail. You spoke about that general texts. I do have a question, only one question, because we're already running late. You spoke about general text, but how about alternative texts for pictures? Are they still relevant? Yes. Let me just show you one additional slide. What I wanted to skip. Well, when we talk about image search, apart from the name and the alternative text, there is something else you can search for, which might be of interest to you. And I added this slide to my presentation because that's the way it works. Forget about using keywords only. Now, all the relevant issues for your topics, which are important for your niche, make it very likely that you will be categorized as being a website of relevance. I'm assuming that you will still be around for additional questions. Thank you very much.